Welcome VR aficionados. I'm gonna be upfront with you, May is kinda slow, not the strongest month for VR game releases, but even so there are more than enough titles to skim through and maybe I can bring one or two smaller projects to your attention. Let's get started. The first title on our list is a re-release of an older game. B99 is a roguelike first-person shooter, inspired by classics like Doom, Parodius, Battlezone, Robotron and Rogue. The all-powerful AI B99 is bored to its guts and thus has created a labyrinth-sized challenge for you to partake in. Find weapons and upgrades, navigate traps, fight your way through hordes of enemies and boss encounters, and ultimately survive the procedurally generated labyrinths. With an acid trip of an art style and a banging soundtrack, it sure looks like a unique experience. The game released 2 years ago on the Oculus Store for the Rift only. On May 2nd it will get its Steam release, because, and I quote the developer's Twitter here, Steam is the home of PC gaming. Hopefully the game will get a bit more exposure there. It didn't get much attention on the Oculus storefront, or Meta Store now I guess. The developer is also working on ports for the Quest and PSVR, no release window for those platforms so far. Another month, another VR zombie shooter. This one is called Last Day Zombie Survival. I hope the game is not as generic as the title. The protagonist finds himself trapped at an unknown location, entangled in a deadly game. Solve riddles, find clues to the identity of your mysterious captor and fight the undead horde to ultimately escape the premises. The game promises a story-driven single-player campaign and an arsenal of ranged weapons, pretty much as usual. There's a twist though, as you have only a limited time to escape. I'm not entirely sure how that will play out. The game is scheduled to release on May 2nd for PCVR on Steam. The Steam page only shows support for the Rift, which is a bit strange. It will probably work with other headsets just fine, but it might entail that you will have to fiddle with the controls a bit. The probably highest profile release of the month is actually a PC port. Fracked released in August last year exclusively for the PlayStation VR. Stranded at an isolated mountain facility, you square off against a horde of interdimensional beings. You can run, ski and climb to traverse the terrain, use cover and an arsenal of weapons to save the planet from an alien threat. The game was generally well received, a bit short maybe and not fleshed out to its fullest potential, but it offered a good deal of fun and honest arcadey action. It was mainly restrained by the limitations of the PSVR hardware. It remains to be seen how much they rework the system to take advantage of the more, let's use the word modern, PCVR headsets and controllers in particular. I hope it turns out good. The art style looks great, the action looks fun, I'm down. The game is coming to PCVR on Steam on May 5th. Musical Range is a rhythm game. Why another rhythm game, you ask? Good question. The feature of this one is that you not only hit the note, you actually play it. The game only tells you when to play it. It is basically a hybrid between a rhythm game and a music maker. I'm sure it will sound horrible when you are not good at it, you will just have to suffer through until you get good. The game promises that you can express yourself through music. You can import your own tracks via MIDI files, play in free mode to create music or jam to music on Spotify or YouTube. As a genre standard, there will be scores and leaderboards for each song. The game will have original songs but also feature artist collaborations and video game soundtracks. It is scheduled to release for PCVR only on Steam on May 9th. There's a distinct lack of built for VR racing games. Xocos tries to remedy that with the high-speed sci-fi racer Omega Pilot. This is the second VR racing game in the studio's portfolio. With that racing they went for a third-person perspective for comfort reasons. This time around we will get the cockpit view, as it should be. The game only has asynchronous multiplayer, which usually means that you will race against other players' recordings for the top place on the leaderboards, which is a bit disappointing. The game promises customization of your vehicle, regular events and constant updates. For now we only have a cinematic trailer, so nobody has seen any gameplay, which is a bit strange so close before release. I would not be surprised if it got delayed. The game is scheduled to release into early access on Steam on May 12th. Afterlife is a VR horror game focused on creating a highly immersive experience with realistic graphics. You take the role of the rookie police officer Adam Bernard as he gets sent to investigate the Black Rose Mental Hospital, the very same institution that your younger sister was recently committed to. While exploring this forsaken place, you must uncover the dark secrets that lie hidden within the hospital walls. The game promises a blood-chilling storyline, puzzle solving and combat encounters where you not only need to rely on your firearm but also on your psychokinetic abilities. As you encounter paranormal activities, you must investigate the terrible mysteries of the institution's dark history. An early access release is scheduled to hit Steam on May 13th. Random Fighter VR is a massive open world RPG with a deep player progression and fast-paced physics-based combat, featuring melee and ranged weapons, magic spells and summons. There will be life skills like cooking, farming, blacksmithing, hunting and mining, each with its own progression. You can expand your influence by providing services to the townsfolk, including the construction of new structures. You can do all this as a single player or cooperatively with friends. This is a project by a solo dev, which is crazy to me. How is that even possible? The game is not necessarily a looker, but it is extremely ambitious. It is scheduled to release into early access this spring for PCVR on Steam. I would expect a lengthy early access phase. So Legends and Lore is not a game, it is advertised as a tool to bring tabletop role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons to a virtual environment. It is drafted for 5 players, one of them taking the role of the Game Master and the other 4 as adventurers. The GM has the tools to create his own environments, place enemies and NPCs, and generally dictate the flow of the story. As the adventurer, you have access to a deep character creation system, including things like beliefs and backstory, and it is your task to, well, roleplay. The game has 2 modes. In roleplay mode, you explore and interact with the world from a first-person perspective. When you encounter enemies, the game switches to combat mode, where you will be pulled into a third person and play out an XCOM-inspired tactical combat scenario. The GM is responsible for customizing the enemy stats and abilities. They have the ambitious goal of making the combat so customizable as to accommodate for every possible rule set. Legends and Lore is scheduled to release into early access on Steam this month. Core Disruption is a cockpit-based PvP tank combat game. You are simultaneously the driver, gunner and system operator of your armored fighting vehicle. The game offers 1v1, 2v2 and 3v3 player combat scenarios. It promises a deep progression system and extensive customization of your tank's chassis, weapons, skins, modules and subsystems. They tease something called a simulation sickness mitigation technology, basically meaning that they try to give you unrestrained vehicle movement without causing too much motion sickness. So if that is something you are struggling with or are worried about, the game might be for you. If it works, that is. Core Disruption will enter an early access phase this month on Steam. It also runs on a flat screen, but it is made for VR and should be played in VR. Stealing stuff is fun, right? Good news, soon you can share the fun with friends. The Break-In is a 4-player co-op burglary game. You sneak into houses, museums and banks to steal everything you can get your hands on. You sell your booty to purchase new equipment, which in turn gives you the possibility to pull off more profitable heists. The helpful gadgets include ladders, zipline launchers and climbing picks for easier access, airbags and pistons for safer extraction, and binocular and drones for better observation. Every mission has randomized room layouts and points of entry, so each infiltration requires a new plan. There will also be a flat version and full crossplay between VR and non-VR. The game should release for PCVR on Steam soon. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the content. Is there a game you are excited about? Tell me in the comments below. See you next time.